Why do you think it does take courage? Like, I definitely agree it's very courageous to integrate the shadow. Do you think it takes courage because people are scared of the reaction they'll get from society and their peers? Or do you think there's something else that kind of is more like something more personal about it? Do you think it might take courage to, that way, if you're integrating your shadow, you're almost saying, I'm not really living the life as the person I truly am?
Yeah.
And do you think it's quite courageous to say to yourself and act out, I don't know how you'd word it, but like, I'm not who I say I am.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it's fearful, and like, to think that you aren't who you think you are, I guess. I don't know why it is fearful though.
Yeah, so to your question, I think that is some part of it which you're scared to integrate your shadow because of you don't want to appear a certain way to other people, because realistically that's kind of the fundamental reason why the shadow becomes, because it's the opposite of the persona, the person you present to the world. You want to present this certain person, so you're hiding these things away. So it's going to take courage to be willing to show these things.
Yeah. So do you think it takes courage to kind of think to yourself, I'm not living my life the way I think I should, and my life is almost a facade? Do you think it takes do you think that's quite fearful for most people?
Yeah. Well, sorry, I think it takes courage as well, because the things that you'll find inside the shadow are things that you don't want to come across yourself.
Right.
So you will realise parts about you. Like, if you become aware of it, you're like, fucking hell, I've got like maybe a lot of sexual fantasies that I wish I didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Or you've got a lot of aggression built up that you're like, this is like not good. Or there's other traits that you consider evil.
Yeah.
And it could be maybe traumatic to come across those type of things. So I think that's why that's another reason it takes courage, because you're probably gonna get some answers to questions about yourself that you don't want to hear.
Yeah. Do you think it's also maybe when you discover and like investigate your shadow, you realise you have the capability for these certain actions that you view as negative, and like you view them as like terrible almost, like realising you have the capability to be like violent or like ultra aggressive, or you have these strange sexual fantasies or whatever, like that's scary because it goes so much against your worldview maybe. But I guess integrating the shadows and being a higher man go hand in hand, because it's not about the worldview, it's about your individual view and setting your own values.
It's about becoming authentic, because it kind of brings us on to the consequences of not integrating the shadow. So there's an illusion that you're safe if you ignore the shadow, because you don't have to confront these dangerous parts of yourself. But the reality is you're not safe, because the shadow is still there, whether you choose to admit it or not. But if you don't become aware of it, and if you don't integrate it, then it will make itself known unconsciously, and you won't get to choose, and it'll probably come out in a bad way. So this is probably how maybe a lot of like domestic violence or something happens, because people have this darker side to themselves. Perhaps they're resentful about things nothing to do with their partner. They're resentful about their life in a certain way, and they choose not to address it. They choose not to address it, and one day their partner says something wrong to them, which wouldn't even be that bad.
Yeah.
But then then they just snap, and they're like, where did that come from? Like, they became possessed by the shadow because they had so much aggression built up inside of them. So that's one of the big consequences if you choose to remain willfully blind about the shadow. That in some sense you don't get a choice about whether it makes itself known. You get a choice about whether it's voluntary, and you have control over it. You're not safe from it if you choose to ignore it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, but like, okay, in that example, do you think like this person not living the life they want to, and they build this resentment, and their partner says something and they flip at the partner, do you think that when they flip at the partner, do you think that is because they attach that resentment to the partner, or do you think do you think they can still flip at the partner even if their resentment is attached to something completely different? Like the person might think, oh, I've not got the job I want because I got married and it held me back in this location where I want to move to this other area to get a better job.
Yeah.
Or do you think, like, separate from the partner, they're just resentful about not having a job and then they can still flip at the partner? Or do you think
I don't think there has to be a connection.
Right.
I think that aggression could come out in different ways. Like, they could just be fuming at something their boss did, and then, I mean, it's an extreme example for domestic violence, but they might go home and they might be a bit of a cunt to their partner.
Yeah.
Like just rude to them and mean to them, because they've got this resentment inside them and they project that onto other people. So yeah, that's that word, like projecting it onto other people. I think that's commonly what happens when you don't integrate your shadow. You project it onto others.
Do you think it's usually projected onto those closest to you?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, do you think that's maybe why, like, a lot of people in relationships, like, if there's a really nice person, they usually treat their girlfriend the worst out of all their mates and, like, the people they interact with. Not all the time.
Yeah, it's maybe a common thing.
How do I say it? Like, do you know when someone, like, let's say someone's going through a really shitty time and then they'll always burst out as the person closest to them.
Yeah.
Even if it has nothing to do with them, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Is that because maybe they trust that person more to be able to forgive them, or?
Yeah, maybe.
Or they're just more comfortable with them, and then that part of the shadow comes out faster.
Yeah, I think it's probably because they're more comfortable. Because, for example, the reason they're suppressing, let's say, their aggression in the first place, is because in the context that they're becoming angry, like if their boss is a dick to them in this example, like they build up the anger, but then they're trying to be socially conformist, so they're holding it in, and then when they go home, there's not that pressure to socially conform. And when you're comfortable with someone, I guess you can be more authentic. You will be more authentic. Like, you are being authentic when you let the shadow possess you, but it's part of you that you don't want to let take control of you. So even though it's authentic, in that case, it's not integrated, it's not controlled, so it's going to come out in a negative way.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. There's a guy I know at uni who, he's, when researching this topic, like, he's the perfect example of someone that's not integrated his shadow, to me anyway. Like, he's such a lovely guy, and, like, everyone will say he's just, like, a genuinely sound guy when he's sober. But, like, when he drinks, he's been going out with his girlfriend for 2 years, since the start of uni. But when he drinks, like, on a regular basis, he just turns into an absolute, like, dickhead. Like, he treats his girlfriend like shit, and, like, he treats, like, his mates like shit.
Yeah.
And just kind of goes off on one at people. And, like, it always seemed weird to me, like, he's so nice and so lovely. It's so opposite that he is such a dick when he's drunk.
That's a shadow, man. Yeah. Like, I can't remember. I think Carl Jung said it's. I can't remember the different things he listed, but one of the things he said that can cause you to manifest your shadow is if you've drunk alcohol or you've done other things which loosen your inhibitions. Like, that's when the shadow is more free to come out and take possession of you. I guess you're in a less conscious state, and it'd be, maybe that's the reason, like, these negative fantasies often come up in dreams, because you're, like, physically unconscious in your dreams.
Oh, okay.
So that's another way they make themselves known, and that's another way people can become aware of their shadow, because if they learn to, like, remember their dreams and they're aware of their dreams, then things will come up which maybe they should think about.
Yeah, investigate it consciously.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, right, this might sound weird. Do you know how, like, on certain substances, some people turn into, like, have different egos? Like, do you know how, like, for some people vodka is sound for them, and then, like, if they drink tequila, they go crazy, and if they drink gin, they get really sad.
Yeah.
And, like, with other drugs that are, like, illegal, which you shouldn't do. Like, someone who's on coke might just be an absolute dickhead, where someone else who does it might be really nice and friendly.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe the reason that someone acts like a twat when they're on these different substances is because they don't have an integrated shadow?
Yeah, definitely. That's the shadow making itself known involuntarily.
Yeah, so someone that maybe, if you see someone that's just like lovely and like sound when they're on these different drugs or like different drinks, they have like a largely integrated shadow.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, maybe not. Maybe it's not black and white, yes or no. Just because you're fine to be around when you're drunk doesn't mean you've necessarily integrated your shadow. But that is it. I think that is an indicator that they are more authentic. If when they're drunk, they're still kind of the same person as they are when they're sober.
Yeah.
Because the whole personality is authentic and properly aligns.
It shines through.
Yeah, even when they are, if they are a bit drunk, inhibitions will be loosened, and they'll probably, like, if you're drunk, you take more risks and don't care as much about the consequences. That's just like a fact of being drunk.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, certainly for people who don't have their shadow integrated, there'll be a far more extreme change in their personality when they get drunk and their inhibitions are loosened enough for their shadow to come out.